Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I am your host, Professor Sides, and for the latest updates, information, and picks, you can follow me on Twitter at Professor Sides. Today is Saturday, July 9th, 2022. This episode covers all of today's Major League Baseball games. In case you're new here, I built a mathematical model for win probability, totals, hitter, and pitcher projections. I also bring in that weather data in order to make one side pick and one total pick on every game that's played Monday through Sunday, though there are no Sunday shows. That doesn't mean I recommend you do the same, as my goal in this episode is to share key information about today's games, give you a few things to think on, and explain why the model or I like a certain play in order for you to come up with picks that you are comfortable with. I never recommend blindly tailing or fading any pick, but rather hear the justifications and thought processes to make sure you're fully on board with me or against me before investing your hard-earned money. And as I go through my plays, remember that there are no locks in gambling. So what I give you are loves, likes, and leans to indicate my confidence level with respect to scaling wagers. And as always, please remember that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to say we'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Last night finished really strong with those late games, up about 7 units. Keeps us at a pretty strong week right now. It's always more fun than the alternative. The last 3 weeks, entering Sunday has been like plus or minus like a 1 unit, I think, basically entering the last day of the week. So I'm hoping for a good Saturday here and give us a cushion. You know, it'd be nice to just enter Sunday and be like, hey, it's all gravy at this point. That'd be a little change of pace from the last 3 weeks. But, throwing out a lot of information. Hopefully you are, dissecting through the right stuff, enjoying what you're hearing, getting good information. And the main thing, like I said, just being confident with your investments. I mean, that's the biggest thing. You can second guess yourself for days on end doing this. I'm sure you're well aware of that. So really it's just about feeling confident and just letting it go once you make the play and saying, hey, I did the best with the information I had. We'll learn from it. We'll try to do better tomorrow. Some plays are going to win. Some plays are going to lose. Like I said, yesterday was a strong finish for all of my picks. Obviously didn't get them all, but I was pleased with the results yesterday. Pleased with the results so far. Pleased with the way the model is doing with regards to picking outsides. Like I said, it's taking a stand on a few teams and it's being more right than wrong. Still getting a couple of bad luck bounces or weird results on a couple of them. Two specifically, it's taking a stance against the Rockies, and they won another one-run game last night. I feel like that's just they can't keep doing that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to say they can't keep doing that. They play these close games, they're going to lose more than they win. And the Guardians, a real heartbreaker yesterday. A solid bullpen there in Cleveland and then blowing that lead and then having multiple chances at the end to win and just not able to do it. But still lots of good things, except the Mariners. Always a source of joy for us. It seems like these days becoming one of my favorite teams. And totals winning yesterday, so it's more fun when those also get rolling. Those have been kind of struggling lately, but the model's starting to pick up again on the trend that runs, just like I mentioned before, aren't quite as prominent as they kind of were maybe more mid-end of June, where it was starting to rise a little bit. And that trend just didn't continue as the weather's warmed up. I don't know if it's the balls or what's going on, but we're back to more 8 runs a game than we were kind of trending more in the 8.5, maybe a little above 8.5 for a stretch there. But now we're kind of back more towards 8 runs a game. So the model's kind of picking up on that, and that led to a good totals day yesterday. And we'll see if we can do that again today. But before we get to that, some reminders, please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free and the only way, assuming you turn notifications on, to ensure you don't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. Share with a friend if you know others in the game. Hit me up on Twitter. Drop a comment from YouTube. I love those and try to respond to as many as I can or as many as I see. So we've got 2 games today at 2 Eastern, and then, as usual, just a slew of games at 4 Eastern, followed by 2 earlier night games and then 2 late night games. We'll start off here at 2:10 Eastern, Tigers and the White Sox. Tigers get it done yesterday in a game that had a bunch of runs late. Neither one of these bullpens gives me a lot of confidence after something like that, but they both rate really well. I think the truth for these two teams is somewhere in between the 2 games we've seen this series so far. You're not going to be quite as low scoring as that first game, obviously, but yesterday I think was a bit of an aberration with regards to how many runs were scored late there. I don't see that playing out again. I don't see the under being as easy as it was Thursday night, but I back on the under here in Chicago Under 8.5, it's an A grade for me. The total spits out 7.2. Just does not trust this Tigers offense to score, believes in the Tigers bullpen. The White Sox offense is decent, but again, going against a righty is not as good as going against a lefty. At this point, everybody knows you don't want to throw a lefty against all those right-handed White Sox hitters, as they will do some damage to you. Garrett Hill for the Tigers, great first outing, 6 innings. Advanced metrics weren't great, but again, it's just one outing. He rates as average in the model. Obviously, his rating has a lot of variability going forward as we get more data on him, but a solid enough pitcher. Cueto also rates as average, but I think the model might be underrating Cueto just a little bit. He's had a great season, a 3.30 ERA. The advanced metrics lag about a full run behind that, so that is something to concern. He's not great, but I think he might be a little better than average, even though the model only says league average. Weather-wise, it's going to be in the mid to low 70s, despite being a day game with the winds blowing across. So I think we're going to have a fairly friendly pitcher environment here. An afternoon game in July, you're expecting, in Chicago, mid-80s, maybe even 90-degree temperatures. Being in the low 70s, this is going to help the pitchers out. Again, I think both pitchers are decent. Again, both bullpens rate out as decent, and both offenses can be hit or miss. Like I said, I really love this under 8.5. I think this total should be 7.5. I think we've got a ton of value here. A grade on that under. And with regards to the side, I'll take the Tigers at plus 154. The model thinks the number should be 147. Only a lean, though. There's a little bit of value on the Tigers. We got that B winner yesterday with them with these big plus odds, which is always a lot of fun. I'm a little bit concerned, though, with Hill being a pitcher we just don't know a ton about. Just the extra variability that he has. And Cueto, again, his advanced metrics aren't as good as that ERA. So it's not that I think Cueto's great, but I think there's a chance that Cueto might be a little bit better than the model realizes. So there's some value here on the Tigers, in my opinion. I wouldn't lay these big odds with the White Sox. It doesn't mean the White Sox win. I'm always saying things like that. It's just I don't think the price is very good for the White Sox, but it's one I don't want to be too invested in the Tigers either. There's just too many things that can happen here. So I think the Tigers are the right side. I'm just going to be invested with the one unit. Again, the main investment being this under. I think 8.5 just doesn't make sense given these offenses I don't think are good enough to hit well in low 70-degree weather, unless you put this game in Coors or Cincinnati or something like that, which it's not. At the same time, slot the other early game, Phillies at the Cardinals. Be a little warmer in St. Louis and Chicago. Went up by a ton. We're going to start off in the mid-70s. We're going to close around 80 degrees, but the wind will be blowing in from left center field at about 10 miles an hour, so that's going to also help the pitchers out. Kyle Gibson versus Dakota Hudson, two guys that are both pretty average according to the model. Gibson, a 4.91 ERA, but the advanced metrics, I've kind of been saying this all year, he's not as bad as the ERA is. His ERA has been coming down on the whole. Not great. Again, right side is a 98, so barely above average. But the advanced metrics say his ERA should be in the mid to low fours. Let's go to Hudson, on the other hand, has an ERA in the mid to low fours. But the advanced metrics say it should be more like 4.5. Again, two average pitchers. I think Gibson has a slight edge here over Hudson, but it's really rounding error. Both guys are solid, but neither guy is great. In both bullpens, also about average. Edge to the Cardinals here. Have the Cardinals bullpen a little bit better than average. The Phillies bullpen a little bit worse. But the Cardinals have a huge edge on offense. Again, we talked about this without Bryce Harper. I mean, that makes a big difference. One of the 10 hitters or so that are going to actually affect a lineup. And it partially affects this Phillies lineup because they were supposed to have depth this season, but they really haven't. A couple of their peripheral guys haven't done well. Obviously, losing Segura hurts as well. At full strength, this Phillies offense is above average. It's a little scary, but missing a few guys, it's a below average offense. Model says the Cardinals should be a minus 129 home favorite. That's 56%. So we start off at 53% for home field. Again, whatever edge that Gibson might have is offset by the bullpens. And the fact that the Cardinals have a better bullpen. I feel really confident with this number at Cardinals minus 129. I think that's a pretty accurate number because I'd say that the offense for the Cardinals gives them about that 3% boost over the Phillies. I don't see any reason why this is as low as it is. So Cardinals minus 112 is an A-grade play for me. I think there's a ton of value at this number. I don't see why it's not higher than this. It's not that the Phillies are bad. It's just that I think both of these teams are pretty solid, but the Cardinals have a better offense here at home. So I don't know why we're getting such a great number, but I love minus 112. And I'll take the under 8.5. It's a B grade. It's a B plus grade for me. It's almost an A grade. This is a classic one of those, and I've talked about this with a handful of games. It depends on which hour of the day you got me at. Had I been doing this an hour later or an hour earlier, I'm not giving it an A grade. It's really on the border between B plus and A minus. It wouldn't be my strongest A play, of course, but it's one of the stronger B plays, in my opinion. The model spits out a total of 7. I think 7's a little bit too low. I'm not really sure how it gets a number that low, other than the fact that St. Louis is more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark, and when it does play hitter-friendly, it's because of a warm July or August day, and that's not the case here. So it's really about the ballpark and the wind blowing in my opinion, on this one. I mean, average offenses, average bullpens, average starters, with the wind blowing in, 8.5 just seems like way too many runs. At minimum, this total should be 8. If it was 7.5, I don't know if I'd go under. It'd be a lot tougher of a call there. But like I said, at minimum, the total should be 8. I think under is the right way to go. It's a B grade. Like I said, a B plus grade. Especially if you're getting better odds, you could really talk me into this being an A grade if you had something like minus 105. 4:05 Eastern, first pitch, Angels at the Orioles. This Orioles team's been a lot of fun to watch. They do, again, take some months off your life because they play a lot of tight games. And it's not like they're winning all of them. I mean, their bullpen's blown a few of them for us at some big plus odds, which is unfortunate. But they're just – it's always entertaining and fun to watch a team that's been so bad for so long actually be competent. This Angels team is like the exact opposite of that. If you're an Angels fan, I feel like, you're looking forward to football season or something. It's been just a frustrating season for them, of course. They'll try it again today. Nice weather temperature-wise in Baltimore. We're in the low 70s all game, but about a 55% chance of rain throughout the day. So something to keep an eye on there in Baltimore, as this game may happen later in the day, might have some delays. The weather may miss it completely and it not be a big deal, but just something to keep an eye on. Winds will be blowing in, but at 5 miles an hour or under, so not too much help there. Really, we're talking about in Baltimore, the average temperature for a day game, especially in July, would be a lot hotter than this. So it's going to play fairly neutral there, or maybe a little pitcher-friendly, a little bit more like a May game, or a late May game than a July game, given that it's 73 degrees. Patrick Sandoval versus Dean Kremer. Two pitchers who weren't bad. Sandoval, a 3.09 ERA, and the advanced metrics say it should be about 3.5. It's still a great season for. He's had great results, and the underlying metrics are pretty solid. So, I mean, a good pitcher here in Sandoval. Kremer with a 2.48 ERA, but the advanced metrics say that should be about 4. So a little bit of smoke and mirrors on him. Not a guy that I fully trust. The model rates him out at league average. Again, great results so far, but I do think the Angels have an edge here with regards to the starting pitcher. The issue, of course, is that Angels bullpen is really bad. This game being in Baltimore, to me, this is just all this washes out and makes a coin toss game. I love the Orioles at plus 110. The model says Orioles minus 105. Anything in the minus 105 to 100 for the true odds makes a lot of sense. But with the Angels at minus 120, if you do the math on this and you remove the juice on it, it's saying that the true line that the books are coming out with is something like Angels minus 115-ish. And that just seems hard to fathom because the Angels have a little bit better of an offense, but their bullpen's worse, a little bit of an edge with the starting pitcher, but they're in Baltimore. To me, like I said, all that's a wash. It's a coin toss game. Give me plus 110 odds in a coin toss game every day of the week. I love the odds. I want the extra unit on it. Doesn't mean it's going to win. It just means in the long run, if we get good odds, we're going to increase our bankroll a little bit faster. So A grade for me on the Orioles. And I like the under 8.5. It's a B grade. It's the other B plus grade that I have here for the day with regards to totals. Again, the model says 7. I think 7 is just a little bit too low. But the model says this Angels offense isn't that good. This Orioles offense also not good. Orioles bullpen's average. Sandoval's a pretty solid pitcher. A 73-degree day. The model says 8.5 is, basically a byproduct of it's July, and so people are thinking it's probably warmer and there'll be more runs, but that's not the case. So it's a B plus grade. I don't like the minus 120. It's another situation like that St. Louis game. If for some reason you can get under 8.5 at like minus 105, that becomes an A play. Having to lay the price that we're having to lay here at minus 120, it's more of a B plus. But these are the two totals that last game in this one that I do really like. Just couldn't quite get to an A grade on those unders, but I just think both of them were somewhere between a run and a half a run too high. 4:05 Eastern, first pitch Twins at the Rangers. A game I could get to an A grade on the under on here. Devin Spelter versus Martin Perez. Now, I'm not a big Devin Spelter fan. 3.04 ERA, but the advanced metrics say a 1.5 to 2 runs higher. So it's a lot of smoke and mirrors for him. So it's not a guy that I really believe in that much. But even with that, the model still says he's barely worse than average. So it's one of those things where we have to – I'm trying to convey all the information. I want to make sure y'all hear the complete story here. A lot of times when I talk about a guy being not as good as his numbers or not as bad as his numbers, doesn't necessarily mean I think the opposite opinion is true. I just think maybe it's more closer to average than we would first say. It's not that I think Smeltzer's bad necessarily. It's just I don't think he's 3.04 ERA good. But, I mean, the model has him as just a barely worse than average. So we'll call that average and say it's rounding error. You get an average pitcher for the Twins. You've got an average offense for the Rangers, but given the lefty-righty splits, they're getting a downgrade today. Relievers for both these teams, again, around average. Twins bullpen right now, the way it's currently built, projects to be even better than average. Martin Perez has been fantastic. Of course, the best unit on this field is going to be the Twins offense, but the model thinks that as good as that is, Martin Perez is good enough to hold them down. Should be a real strength on strength. But the way that Perez has pitched this year, I have a lot of faith in him. The 2.34 ERA, advanced metrics say not that good, but still say low threes. That would still put him at very good level. I think this game stays under 8.5. I think it's a gift. Model spits out a number in the low sevens, and I for sure agree with that. I think even 7.5 is probably the right number for this one, especially getting a more pitcher-friendly ballpark. A grade under 8.5. The previous two games, I said it's somewhere between a half a run and a run of value. This one I think is a full run of value. 7.5 at minus 115 is what I would have assumed the number would have been. The fact that it's 8.5 is just a huge gift for us. A grade on this under. I don't think it's going to be that high scoring. With regards to the game, the model says coin toss. So I'll take plus 107 on the Twins. It's only a C pick for me, though. I just can't have that much faith in Smeltzer versus Perez. That's really just the bottom line. If you want to go harder on this pick with the Twins at plus 107, I think there's some value on it. It's somewhere between a C and a B grade. It's just Martin Perez has been so good, and he's been a guy that if you faded him at all this season, you've probably lost money. And if you've backed him just blindly, you've probably won a lot of money on the whole. And I know that's probably true of Smeltzer too, but the difference is I think what Martin Perez is doing is a little bit more real than what Smeltzer's doing. So I just don't – I've already got enough invested in this under that I need Smeltzer to pitch fairly well. And I think he'll be okay against a mediocre Rangers offense, but – I just can't get to a B grade. That's just a personal thing. But like I said, from a value standpoint, there's enough value that this is maybe a B play. So that's just something you'll have to consider. You'll have to look at these two pitchers and see if you think you have a little more confidence than I do. This is not about the model making it a C grade. It's about me saying I just can't quite get them. Martin Perez has just been way too good this year. So my main investment will be the under. I think the Twins are the right side. I think there's some value. I'm a little bit nervous, so only one unit for me on the Twins. Still in that same time slot, Astros at the A's. Astros got us a winner last night, and again, had a few more runs than I expected. Today, it will be in the low 70s in Oakland. Kind of like we're always talking about there. The wind tends to die down as the night moves along, this being a day game. The wind won't die down. It'll stay in that 10-mile-an-hour range out to center field as it usually does in the Bay Area for that park. Framber Valdez versus Zach Logue. This is a game that, the Astros are just going to be an insanely priced favorite. The model says 271. Framber is fantastic. 267 ERA, advanced metrics say low threes. Logue is not. A 547 ERA, advanced metrics say it should be worse than that. Huge starting pitcher discrepancy, huge offense discrepancy. Not as much of a bullpen discrepancy. That A's bullpen is continuing to trend better and better by the day. It was so bad for a while. I'm not exactly sure what's happened because I don't watch a lot of A's baseball because I don't hate myself. They're fun. We've backed them against the Blue Jays and they won, but I mean, it's not really the best baseball, when I've got all the options available to me. But that A's bullpen's actually trending better, so not as much of an edge for the Astros in the bullpen department as you might think. But I mean, a huge starting pitcher edge and a huge offensive edge. The Astros should win this one. They should win it pretty handily. It's all about the price, what number we have to lay. And the model says minus 271. The model also says a total between 7 and 7.5. I'm probably going to be on the under on this one again. But depending on what number it is and what the odds are, maybe not quite as heavily as yesterday. I'm really hoping to get under 8. Under 8.5 would be a gift, but I still see it being more of a lower scoring game. I don't see the A's scoring off of Fromber much at all. The big question would be in that big pitcher's park, can the Astros, string together a bunch of hits and put up, 7 runs themselves? And that's obviously possible. So again, it's one of those where it's, as we've just moved on this season and gotten deeper and deeper, it's become harder and harder to bet these Astros unders. Thought I could do it last night, and that wasn't accurate at all. So I still think under is probably the way to go. But this Astros offense is so good, it's hard to have a ton of confidence in any Astros under. I keep saying that, and I keep playing the under anyway. So I don't know. Maybe you are smarter than I am in this one, and going on these Astros overs. And if you are, congrats, because you've probably been winning a lot of money doing that most days. Still not 4:10 Eastern time slot. Marlins at the Mets. Warmer wind in New York. We're going to be in the mid 80s to start, low 80s to close. Winds will be blowing in from right field at almost 10 miles an hour. So that wind's going to offset the temperature just a little bit, make it more of a neutral-ish type park effect there. Braxton Garrett versus Carlos Carrasco. Garrett has a 4.25 ERA, but the advanced metrics say it should be about a run lower than that. He projects to be an above-average pitcher. Carlos Carrasco, a little bit more above average. 2 pitchers I like here. Carrasco's got a 4.64 ERA, but his advanced metrics also say he should be more in the mid-3. So 2 pitchers who I think there's some good value going under in this game, because I think people are looking at these ERAs in the 4s and not realizing that both of them are overinflated by about a full run. I think these pitchers are pretty good. This Marlins offense, as I mentioned yesterday, I just don't have any faith in them right now. Marlins bullpen still rates out as average. Mets bullpen is good. 8 is a gift. Under 8 is my A-grade play. The model spits out 6.5. That might be a tad too low, but even 7, I think, is probably the right number here. And if it was 7, I probably would still go under. I just wouldn't love it. But I just don't think there's going to be a lot of runs this game. It is a little bit warmer here, but those winds blowing in should balance out. And again, I don't trust the Marlins to score. The Mets will score a few runs off of Garrett, but Garrett is almost as good as the Mets offense is. And given the handedness splits, may even rate out as a full push there. So it's not like the Mets offense has a huge edge here. The Mets offense will have a little more of an edge when they get to the Marlins bullpen. That's kind of an area where they should have an advantage, but that's going to be the only point of this game where any hitter has an edge over a pitcher. Otherwise, it's neutral, or the pitcher should have an edge. I love under 8. And just like yesterday and the day before, I'll go back to the Mets as a B grade, money line pick. They've split these first 2 here. I still think there's value on the Mets. This is as high as I want to go for a B grade pick, though. The model thinks minus 179 is the right price. So once you get to minus 175, it drops to a C pick. These low minus 170s is about it. I'd really like a price in the 160s, but as it is minus 171, I still think offers some value, just not enough to warrant an A grade, especially given that we're having to wager more anyway, given the minus odds. So I like the Mets. I think there's some value here. They have the better starting pitcher barely. They have the better bullpen by a little bit, and they have the much better offense at home. The Mets should win this game. And like I said, I just don't see many runs, so I love the under 8. 4:10 Eastern start time, Nationals at the Braves. Weather-wise, one to really keep an eye on. A much higher chance of rain as the day moves on, and that's going to really affect how you view this total. We're going to start off, this time slot will be really warm. It'll be about 90 degrees, and the winds will be blowing across. And so we're going to start off with very hitter-friendly weather, true summer in Atlanta weather. Obviously, it can get into the hundreds in Atlanta. But that's not every day, right? I mean, talking about 90 degrees and no wind effect is going to make this a very hitter-friendly ballpark at the start of this game. But even at the start, there's still a 37% chance of rain. As the game moves along, as we hit towards the end of time, we're down to the low 80s in temperatures, and our rain chance has basically doubled. The wind is now blowing out. So it's like a lot of different things happening here. And these storms, it's like in the south, the storms may completely miss. We may never even know that there's anything around us. It may cause some delays. Really affects how you see the total, because if it gets delayed and out the temperature gets even cooler, the wind changes directions or something, all of a sudden it's now maybe even more pitcher friendly as the game goes along. So a lot just depends on if we have any delays. I'm guessing. This is just I'm not a weatherman, and even if I was a weatherman, you don't know how these things are going to play out. What are we now? 9 hours ahead of first pitch, so we never know how these things are going to play out. My guess right now, and how I'm making my plays, is that all of this rain's going to miss, and we're going to play at 90 degrees, and we're going to finish in the low 80s with the wind blowing out. It's going to make it fairly hitter friendly. That's why I'm only on a lean on the under 9.5. If we get some more pitcher friendly weather, I actually kind of like this under 9.5. But if it holds up like this and we have hitter friendly weather, going under 9.5 is not a strong investment in my pick. And I think it's priced fairly accurately. The model says 9. We are having a little bit of juice here. And again, the model's taking into account the fact that this may end up going a little bit later. So if it holds up like it is, I think 9.2, 9.3 is probably the true number. And I think it's priced pretty right, so I'll go with a lean on the under. But again, if there's any delays, it starts to like that under a little bit more. So just something to keep an eye on with the forecast there. With regards to the side, Patrick Corbin versus Kyle Wright. I've been saying it all year. Corbin is not as bad as that ERA. His numbers are coming down. The advanced metrics, a full 1.5 lower than that 5.68 ERA, and he rates out as exactly average. I don't think Patrick Corbin is good. I've never thought he was good this season, but he's not terrible. But I mean, this Braves offense is somewhere around good, right? I've been talking about this Braves offense is not elite right now. It's not fully healthy, but it's still above average. And so I think, the Braves offense hits lefties better than righties with the way it's currently constructed, because it's so right-handed heavy. So the Braves offense should score off of Corbin, because Corbin's nothing but an average pitcher. Kyle Wright is fantastic, 291 ERA, and the advanced metrics are not far behind that. His rating continues to improve each and every day. I've been on him all season, basically. Braves offense is better. Braves bullpen's better. Braves starting pitchers better. Braves are at home. Braves should win this game, just like I was talking about yesterday. It's all about the price. The price today, however, isn't horrible on the Braves. I really thought we were going to be back in the Nationals all 3 games, and I was just going to say, gosh, I hope they win one of them, right? Yesterday's price was insanely high. Now, I took Nats plus 241. At some point in the morning, that price dropped a ton. I commented on this, and a couple people on YouTube, I don't remember if on Twitter or not, I commented, the price coming down changes how you view it. It's all about the price. It's the one thing I want y'all to take from this. It's all about the number. It matters so much. And if you don't think so, track all of your plays over a long window of time, and you'll be able to really see how the price matters. Price doesn't matter for one day. One day, whether if you get a bad price and you lose an extra 20 cents, or you win an extra 20 cents, it can matter. It's about the long run, right? Price really matters. So as that price came down, other people like me were like, this Nats edge is just too much. You can't pass it up, right? And that price came down, made yesterday be a little bit more like, okay, I probably still wouldn't be on the Braves, but at least I can see it. Today, that number already is kind of priced there, which, again, surprises me. I really thought we would be on the Nats, because I just figured this Braves money would just be through the roof. But minus 230 isn't a bad price. I'll be on the Braves just to lean. It's not priced well at all. Model thinks 223 is the right price. So right now the model says there's actually no value on either side. And plus 208 on the Nats is not good enough value. Yesterday we got plus 241, and I'd be in the same ballpark. I'd be looking for a number like plus 240. If you get a plus 240 on the Nats, it's too much value to pass up, just because they might win one of these games. But a minus 230, I'm comfortable with the Braves. You can also look run line as well. Just having to lay odds for the home team to win by more than one is never really exciting. So it's the same sort of thing. You can. It's just, I don't think there's just enough value. But at least the price is better on the Braves today than it was yesterday, which, like I said, I'm excited about. I love fading this Nationals team. Y'all know this. If you go look at the database, I think we've made as much money fading the Nats as like anybody. It's why they're one of the most profitable teams we've had. Love fading this team. They're garbage. But at some point, the price matters. And like I said, I'm just really glad that the price wasn't. I really just assumed Kyle Wright, Percy Patrick Corbin. I was like, the Braves are going to be like -300. There's no way you could lay that long-term to be profitable. As it turns out, -230 is not actually a horrible price here. The Braves have that edge everywhere. And so, like I'm always saying, if you're laying a price like -200, you want that right mix of better lineup, better bullpen, much better starter, a starter you're confident in. All that lines up for the Braves here. So, again, not a full-strength Braves team, but one that should really be able to handle this Nats team. I'll take the Braves at -230. Just not priced well enough for me to be invested too much because baseball's random, and if they lose, we lose a ton of money there. So, lean for me on the under, lean for me on the Braves and Atlanta. Still 4:10 Eastern. Rockies and the Diamondbacks. Talked about this at the top of the show. I am ride or die with this Rockies team is bad. It is what it is. If y'all, are like, hey, they're not that bad. Okay, that's fine. I truly do want you to be confident in how you're investing in it. And if you say I'm just messing on the Rockies and you don't want to, you're not with me on this train, that's fine. I just stand by. I don't think they're a very good team. They've won a bunch of one-run games. I don't really think that's sustainable. That doesn't mean they're going to all of a sudden lose all the one-run games. It just means I think they're more coin-tossing situations. I think if we get 2 more one-run games here with the Diamondbacks, as bad as the Diamondbacks pin is, I still think it's better than the Rockies pin. I think the Diamondbacks are the right side. Model says -129. I'm on the Diamondbacks -120. It's an A-grade pick. It's an A-grade pick at here and nowhere else. This is the limit for an A-grade pick for me. If it's 121 up until about that 129 mark, it drops to about a B. And then if it's -130 or higher, then you've lost all your values once you cross from the 120s or less into the 130s or more. I think you've lost all that value. So I like the Diamondbacks here. I like them at home. Rockies have some really extreme home road splits. The fact they've won 2 road games here in Arizona is, in my opinion, a miracle. So I'm on the Diamondbacks here, but again, the value's fading here on the Diamondbacks. So depending on what this number does, determine if in my opinion, how much value you have on it. I like it. I love it at -120. Again, anything higher drops to a B grade pick. And I'll take a flyer on the under 9. This one, the model actually spits out a total of exactly 9. And so at 9 -110 on each side, it's literally spot on exactly what I would make this total. I'm going to take a flyer on the under. I think that both of these pitchers are a little bit better than the model realizes. So if I were to eyeball adjust this and say, I think both guys are a little bit better than the model, wouldn't give you a total at 9, it'd give you a total of 8.8, 8.7. And so I think under is probably the way to go on this one. But both bullpens are so bad. I don't trust it that much. Like I said before, both offenses are so bad. You can't trust it to score. It's tough to handicap bad baseball. I'll lean under. Kyle Freeland, 4.43 ERA, advanced metrics line up right with that. The model gives him a 105. I think Freeland's closer to average than a 105. Bumgarner at 3.74 ERA. Advanced metrics, though, say it should be a full run higher. Projects at a 107. I think the same thing. I think he's closer to a 100 than a 107. I think both of these pitchers are very just average. And the model says both of them are below average. So I think both of them are a tiny bit underrated. I'll lean under. Obviously, 9's a solid number because you got push protection both ways, right? You got the push protection if you go over a 4-4 game, means you can't lose. But the push protection on the under means 4-4 game, you got a shot to still push. So, that push protection at 9 both ways offers some value depending on which way you want to look at it. I don't think there's a ton of value either way, but I'm still on this Diamondbacks team. Not that I think they're good. I just don't think the Rockies are good. I really don't think they're good away from home, and I don't think it's being priced right. I still think there's a good 10, maybe 15 cents of value at this number. Still 4:10 Eastern. Pirates at the Brewers. Zach Thompson versus Brandon Woodruff. Thompson, weather-wise, it does look like to be a nice day in Milwaukee, so whether they open the roof or not. I'm assuming it'll be open. Looks like it'll be low 70s, so it should be a fairly normal day in Milwaukee. Zach Thompson, 4.42 ERA. Advanced metrics say it should be about a half run higher. Definitely a below-average pitcher. Brandon Woodruff, good, not great. But the advanced metrics do say that his ERA should be about a full one lower. So if he continues to pitch like that, his rating's going to improve. His rating takes a little bit of a ding because of his struggles at times over the last some part of the back end of last year and then part of the start of this year. It's affected his length and how deep he can go into games. And that's a big thing. When his pitch count gets up, he's not able to go 7-8 innings, and so that affects him. Just on the other side of 80 in my rating. So like I said, very good, just not quite there into the 70s yet, and that's usually about 80s. That where you cross into that really good mark. He keeps pitching the way he's pitched here lately. If he sticks to those underlying metrics of that ERA around 3, he'll get there soon enough. He just needs to continue to pitch well and show that depth. So just not quite into the 70s, but not far away from it. Huge starting pitcher mismatch in favor of the Brewers. Obviously a huge bullpen mismatch. The Brewers will have the edge pitching wise, but offensively, I think it's kind of a wash. I don't really trust either offense. The total is 7.5. I'm going to lean over. The model says 8. Thompson isn't good, and the Pirates relievers aren't good. The Brewers should score some runs. I'm not sure how many the Pirates score. I'm not that confident in it because this game's, to me, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I don't know how to handicap this game. I'm just going to be straight up honest. The model says the Brewers should be a minus 200 favorite. So the model says Brewers at minus 240 is you're just paying a premium that you shouldn't pay. You should just look elsewhere to invest your money somewhere else because there's not a lot of value. So I'm on the Pirates at plus 216 just with a lean. The model says there's value in it. The Pirates win. It's hard to see how the Pirates win, to be completely honest. It's hard to see how they do it because I don't see how they score off of Woodruff. I don't see how they score off the Brewers bullpen. And I don't really trust the Brewers offense, but Zach Thompson and the Pirates relievers, they're probably going to give up some runs. So it's like, I don't see how the Pirates win. I think 7.5 is too low. I think somebody scores. Maybe the Pirates score off Woodruff. I don't know. It's a hard one to handicap. It's double lean for me. It's not a game that I feel really good about. The total is too low. The total is too low, in my opinion, to go under given the Pirates pitcher involvement. But the price is too high on the Brewers for me to love laying those odds. I think that's kind of to summarize how I feel about this game. It's kind of an icky game for me. I just don't think there's a lot of value personally on either side. The Brewers probably win. But the question is, do they win enough to make minus 240 justifiable? The Pirates are frisky and they hang in there. So, I mean, I don't know. It's a tough question to answer. I don't like much in this game. I'm moving on to the next one. 4:10 Eastern, Guardians at the Royals. Guardians broke our heart last night. I'm on them again today. I hope they can rectify that. Their bullpen has been a strength for them this season. So hopefully that bounces back today. Tristan Mckenzie versus John Easley. Mckenzie at 3.71 ERA. Advanced metrics say it should be in the mid to low 4s. So he's overperforming a little bit, but I still think he's much better than John Easley, who has a 4.76 ERA, and the advanced metrics say it should be a half run higher than that. So edge the Guardians with regards to the starting pitcher. As I mentioned, edge the Guardians in the bullpen, despite what happened yesterday. Edge the Guardians on offense. The Guardians have an edge everywhere you look. The only thing they don't have an edge on is the fact this game's in Kansas City. Model says Cleveland minus 138. I love the Guardians at minus 122. I think there's a ton of value here. I think they win this one. A-grade pick for me in the Guardians. And I'll take the under 9 at minus 120. It's a B-grade pick. The model spits out 8.1. You know, I always love that push protection on 9. 8.5, I'd probably go under 8.5, but unless you're getting plus odds, maybe even money. But unless you're getting plus odds, it probably drops to a C pick here. I think under's the right call. Winds will be blowing in at about 10 miles an hour throughout the day. The issue is that we are going to be in the mid-80s, so that kind of balances that out. And Kaufman plays a little bit hitter-friendly, so it's not what I'm overly confident on. It's just I like that push protection on the 9, so it gets a B grade from me, even though we have to lay a bit of a price to do it. as though I've mentioned with the Royals, though, it's you never really know what types of games they play. They always kind of zig and zag. I don't think they're a team that's going to score a ton of runs, and they didn't last night, but they do tend to play a lot of higher scoring games. So it's just hard to give an A grade to any under involving the Royals. But I think under's the right look here. I like Mckenzie. I like this Guardians bullpen. And I say the Guardians have an offensive edge, and they do, but the Guardians offense isn't great. It's just average. It's just that I think the Royals offense is pretty terrible. So I like the Guardians here at minus 122. That's my main investment on this one. Hopefully they don't blow it like they did yesterday. Last one in this time slot, Rays at the Reds. 80 degrees in Cincinnati, pretty much from start to finish. The winds will be blowing across. By the end of the game, it'll be a cross/out. So maybe a bit of a boost to the bats by the end of the game. Kind of depends on how long it goes and when that wind starts to shift direction a little bit. Drew Rasmussen versus Hunter Green. I like Drew Rasmussen a lot. 3.30 ERA, advanced metrics, say mid to high threes. Definitely an above-average pitcher. Hunter Green for the Reds, a 6.01 ERA. He's not that bad. But the advanced metrics do say his ERA should be around 5. So below-average pitcher here for Cincinnati. Model says Rays minus 147. So the model says this game is priced really well. I'll take a flyer on the Rays at minus 151 because if pressed, I'd rather back Rasmussen and not Green. I just don't think there's value at this number. I think other people are thinking the same way I am. Minus 151 isn't a horrible price on Tampa, in my opinion, but on the road, it's not great because the starting pitcher edge that they have just isn't enough, in my opinion, to justify this price. I'd rather be on the Rays than the Reds, though. So I'll back the Rays just to lean, though. I don't think there's a ton of value in the number. With regards to the total, an A-grade over for me here. I love over 9. We are having to lay a price, but I love the push protection. The model spits out 9.9 for this one. Massive hitter-friendly park. The Reds' offense is trending towards league average. The Rays' offense rates above league average. The Reds' bullpen is terrible. The Reds' bullpen's pitched decent this last week. I just think it's a mirage. I don't think they can keep it up. And so I trust there'll be some runs in this game, especially in that ballpark. We had the under yesterday, and that hit with ease. I don't think it'll be the same story today. I think the ball will be flying out today in Cincinnati. So I love this over 9 here in that one. To the night game, 7:15 Eastern, first pitch, Giants at the Padres. Nice one in San Diego. Of course, it'll be a 4:15 local time start there. We'll be in the mid-70s to start and low 70s to close. Winds will be blowing across. Carlos Rodon versus Yu Darvish. I don't know what to say about Rodon. He's fantastic. 287 ERA advanced metrics say it should be a little bit better than that. One of the top 10 pitchers in the game. Versus Yu Darvish, who I've been mentioning had quietly a resurgent season. A guy who, coming into the season, I was a little down on, but he's been great. 3.53 ERA, underlying metrics line up right with that. He continues to improve in the rating system every week, it seems like. 2 pitchers I like. This total, though, at 7, I think is priced pretty well. I'll give it a B grade on the under. Minus 120. It's just a little more than I want to pay. The model says 6.8, so the model thinks this is priced pretty well. I just love that push protection on the 7. You'll know that. I would not go under 6.5. If it drops to 6.5, I take the over, but it's not one I'd love. I think seven's the most likely outcome. I think 6 is the next most likely outcome. And then I think 8's the next most likely outcome. So at 6.5, you got to lean to over, but at 7, knowing you have that push there, and then the next most likely thing is you win on the under. I like the under here. So B grade under. I like these pitchers. I just don't see a ton of runs happening in this one. As opposed to last night, we had the over on that one, and that hit. So I think now it's time to play the under. It's just priced to the point where there's not enough value to give it an A grade. And I think the price is pretty right here on the side, too. The model says Padres minus 107. I'll take the Padres minus 104. You're kind of talking rounding error at this point. The model says that Rodon is a better pitcher than Darvish. The Giants' offense is better than the Padres' offense, but the Padres' bullpen is not as bad as the Giants' bullpen, and the game being in San Diego all kind of makes that a wash. So I think that's right. I'll take the Padres at minus 104. It's just not one I think has a lot of value right now. Of course, if that number changes, I may tweet out, hey, I'm adding a unit here or there because I think we've got way more value later in the day based off the movement versus what happened in the morning. I've mentioned this before, just as a reminder, line moves used to mean something. Now, unless it's injury or based off who's playing in the lineup, they don't mean anything. And so in general, it doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It used to mean, you got line movement your way and it was like, hey, all of a sudden now I'm probably 60% likely to win this if you're in a minus 110 market. Now it's 50-50. So it doesn't mean see the line movement and fade it. It doesn't mean see the line movement and tail it. It just means it kind of is what it is and doesn't change anything. And so I trust my numbers. And so if the number moves at 10 a.m. for no reason, I don't think it means anything. I think it may just create value for us. And it may not. But it's just a situation where I think if you see morning movements before lineups come out, maybe there's some more value on some of these picks than I'm seeing at this time. 7:15 Eastern, first pitch, Yankees at the Red Sox. Yankees keep rolling. I mean, this team's really good. At some point, the prices are extreme, but they keep winning. It's tough to figure out what to do with them. They have not been a profitable team to blind back over the last, I don't know what it is, 3-4 weeks. They've been basically break even. So even as good as they've been, the way they're being priced still isn't just easily profitable. Doesn't mean you shouldn't back them. They're really good. It just means we got to consider the price. It's a really tough one with the Yankees. They're really the one team that I've loved to back them, and I hate to fade them, but they just, like I said, it's just they aren't blind backing profitable here recently. I think for the whole season they are, because they started off. That's where we made a lot of our profits on them early on when the prices were really good. Today it'll be a little chilly in Boston. Low 70s to start. Mid 60s to finish. The winds will be blowing in, but at 5 miles an hour or under. Jordan Montgomery versus Cutter Crawford. Montgomery, 3.19 ERA. He's been really good. Advanced metrics say maybe not quite that good, but definitely another starting pitcher edge for the Yankees, just like we've been talking about. The Yankees' top 5 starting pitchers are pretty good. If you didn't know, they'll have a huge edge over Cutter Crawford, who has a 5 ERA. Advanced metrics say maybe it should only be a run lower than that. But again, that's the biggest area that the Yankees have an edge, the starting pitcher. They have an edge with the offense, but it's not a huge one. And then relievers, Red Sox relievers are now grading out not that much worse than the Yankees relievers. Again, the big edge being the Yankees and the starting pitcher and the offense. The model says Yankees minus 145. There's no line out as of this morning when I hit the record button. I'm sure there will be one shortly, and I'll tweet out what the pick is for that. At this point, it's hard to fault anybody if they just say I'm picking the Yankees. They can't really fault you. They're so good. I'm just nervous that going forward that the price reflects that. And I guess maybe I'll end this rambling segment of the Yankees by saying this: teams that have been winning or losing, everybody else knows they've been winning or losing. And the price, I think, tends to reflect that usually soon enough. Maybe not right away. And what I mean by that is the expected value of blind backing or fading any team going forward is always negative. Because in theory, everybody knows this team is playing well and they're being priced that way. So this whole, a team's playing well, let's back them, isn't a profitable venture in general, because they've been winning and they're being priced at different prices than they were. And thus, even if they keep winning in general, they won't always win. And when they lose, you will lose a lot more than you've won. And the same thing with fading a team. When you say a team is playing well and I've been writing it and it's been winning, that is true looking back, but it doesn't work going forward. And you're probably also remembering when that's worked and you're not remembering when it hasn't. That's how our brains work. Okay, so all of that to say, it's not as simple as a team's been winning and we want to ride them. We want to ride teams when they're still being priced such that there's value at the current number. And that's, and we'll get to the Mariners here shortly, but that's how I feel about the Mariners. The Mariners have been winning, it's been working, and they're being priced where there's still value. If all of a sudden tomorrow the price comes out on the Mariners and they're being valued like the good team, not great, but good team that they are, then I say they're playing well, but I'm having to pay this premium and I don't expect to be profitable. I don't expect to lose. I just don't expect to be profitable necessarily off of that because they can't always win. And when they lose, now we're losing way more than we've won because they're being priced better. So all that to say, it's not something to think about. I just wanted to give you something to think on that as the Yankees keep winning, the price is going to get higher and higher and higher. You see it in football, the same thing, right? When a team wins, the spread keeps going up. When a team loses, the spread keeps going up. And all of a sudden, it's a situation where you say, yeah, this team is bad, but like as they keep moving the number out, there gets a point where that shifts and even the bad teams start covering spreads. And in baseball, it becomes a situation with money lines where they don't win a lot, but they win enough to be profitable because when you're hitting plus 200 like that, they don't have to win very often to be profitable. So it's something to think about with the Yankees. They've been great. If you've been backing them, kudos to you. It's just not something that's easy to do blindly going forward, in my opinion. So late games, Cubs at the Dodgers, also one with no line. It'll be kind of a standard night in LA, mid-70s to start, mid-60s to close. Winds will be blowing out to start and die down at night. So just that normal LA night. Marcus Stroman is back for the Cubs against Clayton Kershaw. Stroman a 5.32 ERA, but he's not that bad. His advanced metrics for the season in his 47 innings say he should have a mid to upper 3 ERA. A good pitcher, not as good as Kershaw though. Kershaw's 2.57 ERA. Beats his underlying metrics, but not by that much. His underlying metrics still say his ERA should be in the the upper twos. So, I mean, Kershaw's been fantastic. Stroman, I don't think, is very bad in his own right. The model gives a total of 7.3 on this one. My hunch is the total will be 7.5. And if it is, it'll probably just be a lean on the under. But if we can get 8, depending on the odds, it might be an A-grade under because that push protection. Again, I think 7 to 7.5 is the right total for this one. Cubs offense not very good. Dodgers offense is really good, but both bullpens are good. It's going to be all about how much Stroman can limit the damage against this Dodgers offense. But I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. Dodgers probably win. They have edges everywhere. The model says Dodgers minus 223. So we'll see if there's value on the number when that comes out. But the Dodgers probably overwhelming favorites in this one, and rightfully so. As good as Stroman is, Kershaw is better. The Dodgers just huge edge with the bats. This Cubs offense is not very good. And then to take us home, the Blue Jays against one of our favorite teams here, the Mariners. Another line that makes no sense. Mariners plus 110. It's an A-grade pick for me there. The model says Mariners should be a minus 116 favorite. The model says it's basically home field, so we get to ignore that aspect of it and see, can we agree that this is a break-even game everywhere else? Blue Jays have an edge with regards to with the offense, but the starting pitchers, the model says these two starting pitchers are about even. Manoah's the guy who struggled last time out. And like I said, I love Manoah. I think he's great. 2.33 ERA, but those advanced metrics have him at a 3.5. So not as good as that ERA is. A good pitcher. Again, rates as an 86. That's good. Just not Cy Young worthy going forward, despite how great of a first half he's had. Robbie Ray is a pitcher we faded often early, but he's looking better and better each time out. And his ERA at 3.62 lines up pretty well with his advanced metrics. And of course, he's going to give you some length as well. Both these pitchers are good. I think these pitchers are a wash. And how good they are, Blue Jays have an edge with regards to the offense, but I'll tell you that Mariners' edge in the bullpen is a lot. We saw it again last night. The Mariners' bullpen was able to get the job done, and the Blue Jays wasn't. I think that's a wash. I think that bullpens matter. I think you take the edge that the Blue Jays have on offense and you cancel it out with the edge the Mariners have with the bullpen, and you say these two starting pitchers are even. I say it's a coin toss game on a neutral field, so Mariners minus 116 makes a lot of sense. Even if you said Mariners minus 110, I think that makes a lot of sense. Mariners plus 110 is a gift, A-grade pick for me. I do not know why they're underdogs. It's not even a coin toss game. It's a coin toss game on a neutral field, and now I've got home field advantage and plus 110. It doesn't mean the Mariners are going to keep winning for us. It just means there's a lot of value at these numbers that they're giving us. I'm loving the Mariners here at this price. And I'll take the under 7 and even money. It's a B-grade pick. The model says 6.7, so I think under is the way to go. And I love the even money on this. Obviously, 7 is a very likely outcome. If it was under 7 minus 120,
Now that becomes more of a B minus C plus type pick, having to lay that premium. I don't want to go under 6.5, but I can be talking this under 7. I like the even money aspect of it. Gets me to a B grade in this one. So I'll recap the A picks on the day. Tigers and White Sox under 8.5. Cardinals minus 112 at home against the Phillies. Orioles plus 110 at home against the Angels. Twins and Rangers under 8.5. Marlins and Mets under 8. Rockies and Diamondbacks. I got the Diamondbacks minus 120. I'm on the Guardians minus 122 at Kansas City. The Rays and Reds, I got an over 9, though there's some juice on that one. And then I got the Mariners plus 110 at home against the Blue Jays. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. A reminder to check out the Google Sheet for model picks, projections, and results. You can find that link and more at the website, www.pickswiththeprofessor.com. If you haven't done so yet, please click that subscribe button to ensure all the sports betting content we provide on this channel dropped right into your feed. I will see you Monday. And until then, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.